Welcome to the Behind the Punch podcast. My name is Bryson Olson. I'm here with my co-host Jake Sheehy, and we are here with Charles. Remind me how to say your last name.
Presnell.
I'm so
excited.
I'm so sorry.
I'm so excited. No, it's okay. I'm going for this. I'm so excited to talk to you, Charles.
Okay.
One of my favorite things about you is you're able to recall people's names, their records, a lot of their history. You have an amazing memory. And so I want to play on the memory a little bit right now. I want to go back to Rival Series 5. All Heart Promotions just recently had their biggest pro boxing event, and you got to commentate it. You were sitting ringside. I want to talk about your favorite parts of it. Some things maybe some fighters you didn't like, but I want to start with the heavy hitters. What did you really love about that event?
I don't know. The whole event was really good.
Yeah.
Obviously, Sammy going in there and stopping Jesus Marin. That was very impressive, especially when as we were watching it and we're calling it, it looked like he was going to go the distance. In fact, it was, I believe, 2 minutes and 43 seconds.
You're saying Marin?
Marin
was going to go the distance?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was looking so good.
Yeah.
Sammy, he was mixing his punches up really well, doing everything that he was supposed to. And then those body punches, and you could just see his Marin's bodies just start getting tattooed red, and then that one left hook, and you just see his body just give out. It's like, okay, that was the one that was enough. And then Sammy, just being a killer like he is, followed up and got the stoppage. That was great. Bobby Tabil versus Junior Hernandez.
Yeah.
Was
that considered the fight of the night? I don't remember.
I thought it was the fight of the night.
You thought it was the fight of the night?
Definitely. And that's the second time it's the fight of the night. Their first fight was a better fight.
Wow, now that's a hot take right there. You're saying their fight previous was better than Rival Series 5?
It was.
Wow, why do you say that?
Because they both were throwing bombs. Bobby seemed to take a little bit off, and he was trying to be the boxer in this fight, whereas Junior continued to land hard punches. The first fight, I thought Bobby won because he landed harder punches, whereas this fight, I thought it was a draw because I gave Bobby the first round and the last round, and I gave Junior the second and third round. However, if I was giving extra points, like saying one fighter did better than the other, I would say Junior would have won that fight, because if you remember, Junior landed the harder punches, whereas Bobby outboxed him.
That's interesting. I like your takes. Talk to me about, for me, I really, really enjoyed watching Joshua Rivas. I had no idea about him. He came out, what was it, Arizona he came out of?
Yeah.
I thought he played I don't know the correct terminology here, so correct me, maybe just a technical game. I thought he came in looking really sharp, but I really loved Dillan's showboating. I loved how he was playing with him. As a commentator, do you kind of like that thing? It allows you to riff on it, or do you think that's, I mean, we've gotten both takes. We've gotten people who says that's like rude, that's not right to do. We've heard it's Dillan say he likes to do, he's just having a fun time. Do you have a certain take on it?
I think if Dillan wasn't feeling it, he wouldn't be like that. Rivas boxed really well. You could tell he had a high level of boxing. And we talked about that when we were commentating, about how both of them came out. You could tell that just by their footwork and how they threw punches, that they were two highly skilled fighters. Dillan just did those little things to land harder punches, more punches, and then he started feeling. He was feeling it. That's why, beginning of the fourth round, he just stands up and he's dancing, he's having fun. I don't fault him for that. I mean, he's trying to be an entertainer. You got to remember, in boxing, it's a business. You could be the best boxer in the world, but if nobody wants to pay to come and see you, it doesn't matter. But Dylan
Clip
Nguyen
it.
goes out there, he's dancing, he's having fun. People say, I want to see him fight again. I'm going to go follow him on Instagram. And when I see him fight, I'm going to get a hold of him and buy my tickets from him because I want him to make that little bit of extra money. Whereas another fighter that's fought on the All Heart cards, Mauro Gutierrez. Mauro Gutierrez is a fantastic fighter, not only in boxing, but he's also an MMA champion. He's the Fierce Fighting Championship flyweight champion. He's going to fight for the Front Street Fights flyweight title in Boise next month. Well, could be this month when it's in July. Anyways, fantastic fighter. Now, what Zack has told me and what Jason has told me is he's the nicest guy, consummate professional. He'll turn in all of his blood work. He'll show up on weight. He'll put on a great fight. The problem is he just doesn't sell tickets. And
I can back that statement. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I will
Okay.
back that statement. I reached out to Mario. It's Mario, right? Mauro.
Yeah.
Whenever he was going to fight Isaiah, bummer that it fell through. But I reached out to him, and he was a very, very kind man. He responded very quickly. He got me all of his graphics, all the headshots I needed. He was a fantastic guy. And I will second back you on that it is a business. Clip that. That's fantastic. I completely agree with you. And I think that's a thing that a lot of fighters miss, is they're not moving the needle for the promoters, because it's a business at the end of the day, like you said. So talk to me. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Talk to me about what Zack was telling you. And also, what did you think about Zack? For coming from the MMA world, stepping into the boxing.
Well, Zack also did BKFC. So he was training for a BKFC fight in May. So it's not a big stretch to go from bare knuckle boxing to regular boxing. And he's been wanting to do this for a while. I know Zack pretty well. We text each other probably on a weekly basis just to see what's going on. And we were texting, and he said, yeah, one of these days I'm going to go on one of those all heart cards because I want to try my hand in boxing. And so I told him it's just going to be an honor to call one of your fights. He was trying to get an MMA fight. Those fell through. BKFC decided not to have their card in May here. And so it just aligned for him to come and do that fight. He did a fantastic job. He was fighting an uphill battle. He was telling me in May when he was getting ready, he said, I know Sean's the better boxer, but I'm going to come with heat. And I think that's what he did, because the difference in that fight, the rounds that I had Zack winning was when he was busier and landing harder punches. Sean is a tricky boxer, and the thing about Sean is that a lot of what he does is very nuanced and very hard to pick up if you're not looking for it. The problem in the professional ranks is those things don't score points. What scores points in a professional boxing match is effective aggressiveness and clean hard punching. So that's one of the reasons why I think Sean hasn't been as successful as he could be in the pros. Is sometimes he's just not throwing enough punches.
Man, I love the way you're breaking it down right now. This is fantastic. Okay.
Sorry. Speaking of, you clearly know a lot about the sport and just combat sports in general. Were you ever in combat sports yourself, or is it just a love for the sports?
I had 5 pro fights. I had 40 sanctioned amateur fights, and I probably had about 200 smoker fights. So I've done 2 MMA fights. So, I mean, this was all back in the day. I say back in the day. My last pro fight was in 2013. I fought Gary Cobia, and I got stopped in the second round. And I remember I'm laying there, and the referee stands over and waves it off, and I'm just thinking, good, I don't have to get up.
That's fantastic.
Because Gary was 260 pounds. He's about 6'5", and his punches on me felt like sledgehammers.
That's a big dude. That's a big guy.
Now, to put that in perspective, I mean, now I walk around about 240 pounds, but at the time, I was trying to fight at light heavyweight. So for the weigh-in, I drank a gallon of water before I went to weigh in over 200 pounds.
Wow, Charles. Okay. I'm gonna go back. Unless you have more, I'm gonna go back to the fight here. That was a fantastic question though, because you really do have a great memory on this kind of stuff. It's fantastic to pick your brain. I wanted to talk about Sammy versus Marin. Go back just a little bit. I thought I was there for Rival Series 4. I saw his first fight. I saw him come out. His body completely changed. We spent time with him. We filmed with him. We've seen him. His face looked different. His body looked different. He had like lost weight. I mean, he looked different. Sammy did. And then we see this second fight, and him and Marin are going back and forth, and it's a fantastic fight. Where do you see Sammy going after this? I mean, do you have a certain person that you hope he fights, or any kind of predictions here?
I think he's going to fight somebody that is going to give him another challenge. See, the difference between the first fight he did, the records are the same, right? 1-6 and 1-6, but some 1-6 fighters aren't the same. Marin was 1-6, but all of his fights had gone the distance. And the combined record of all of his opponents was something crazy, like 17-2, right? And he had gone the distance with all of them. One of them was like a 10-2 fighter. Whereas the guy that Sammy fought in his pro debut was 1-6, but he had been knocked out in the first or second round by all 6 of the people he fought. So, like I said, 1-6 isn't the same when you're looking at the fact that Marin knew how to go rounds, whereas the other guy couldn't take a punch.
No, I'm totally with you.
And the difference between the fights is that also with Sammy's body, you made a good point about that. Sammy fought at a higher weight for his pro debut, basically because his opponent couldn't make weight. So his opponent couldn't make weight. He did the honorable thing. He called a week in advance, said, hey, I'm not going to be able to make the weight that we contracted for, so can we fight at like 135? And Sammy was willing to do that. Sammy weighed in fully clothed, but he wasn't cutting weight. He was like he would. He wasn't not drinking, not eating, drying himself out like he would to make 127. So when he fought Marin, he was actually cutting because they both were going to make weight.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's go on to, we've overlooked somebody, Emmanuel. We had him on the podcast, him and Bobby out of Reyes. Fantastic, kind man. What did you think of his fight for that rematch against, was it Zaden?
Zaden Clark, yeah. He did a lot better. Clark, to his credit, he corrected some of his mistakes. Clark, the first time he fought, he was on his heels a lot when he was throwing punches. So he didn't have a lot of leverage on his punches, and he wasn't putting together as crisp of combinations. One thing he did is he was on the balls of his feet the second time, and he did a jab hook and a jab uppercut, which is, like next level. He did. Yeah. He made that correction. The difference is that Emmanuel made a lot of corrections as well. Yeah. And he also let his hands go. That was something that happened in his pro debut. It shouldn't have, like 2 of the cards said 40-36 and 1 said 38-38. The 38-38, Doug Gibson and I, we were sitting next to each other. We weren't calling that one, but we were sitting next to each other, and we both were like, I don't know if this is a shutout. Doug showed me his scorecard, and he's like, did you have this a draw? I said, I didn't have it a draw, but I didn't have it a shutout. So I remember talking to Emmanuel before the first Zaden Clark fight, and I said, let your hands go, because you kind of didn't let your hands go in your pro debut, and I know some people didn't think you did as well as you could. And then that fight, he let his hands go, but he wasn't moving his head enough, and that's how he got all marked up. This one, he put it all together and he got the stoppage.
All right, talk me to the I'm totally blanking on the name, so I feel bad. If you remember it, call me out. The first fight against
Darian Orvin versus
Thank you.
William Worthland.
See, this is what I'm talking about. The first, and now was he he's also an MMA fighter, right? That is transitioning into boxing. So is this a common thread you're seeing? I mean, with him and with Zack and with Mato that we were just talking about, do you think more MMA people are going to start coming to boxing or vice versa?
A lot of MMA fighters like to get rounded experience. And so Fierce and Still Fist will do kickboxing, and some of the MMA fighters will do kickboxing. Still Fist has like half their cards kickboxing and the other half MMA. Fierce will do an all kickboxing card, and they'll do it in a ring, whereas Still Fist will have it in a cage. It's kind of cool to see in the cage, but so a lot of MMA fighters like to have that rounded experience and just more opportunities to fight. I remember I asked Mauro, so if you had a choice between getting a big pay-per-view boxing match or getting a call from UFC, which one would it be? And he said, why do I have to choose?
There you go. There you go.
He's the type that's like, why do I have to choose? Whereas with a lot of these MMA fighters, they want to have the rounded experience just to kind of, one, say that they did it, two, just have that little bit more of an edge. Like if a fighter is more of a grappler or an MMA fighter is more of a grappler or wrestler, they want to learn their striking, so they're going to start doing more boxing and kickboxing. And now Darian, he is more of a striker. So if you follow him on Instagram, he has a lot of videos of him doing kickboxing sparring. He's been reaching out to a lot of boxers. Hey, could we go spar and whatnot? So it's not surprising to me that he did that. But he also started boxing before he did MMA. He was boxing with Sean Cross.
I didn't know that. That's at Factum?
Yeah. Sean Cross boxing. So. Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting. One of my questions I wanted to talk to you about was, what makes a really good fighter nowadays? You kind of hit on it that this is a business. The fighter has to move the needle. And I guess the question comes from like the idea that you have to be like a purist in your form, but now we're talking about these people who are like mixing, right? But they want to be very well rounded. Right. So is a good fighter nowadays someone that can do multiple facets, that can go from kickboxing to MMA to boxing, or is a good fighter someone that can move the needle, sell some tickets, and just put on a good show?
Depends on what you want to do. So locally, MMA is much bigger than boxing at the moment. Doesn't have to be that way, and I don't think it's going to be that way. I think boxing's going to make a comeback now that we have now that Jason and Monica are catching their stride, starting to get in the black as far as what they're making off of their shows and everything. I think that we're going to start seeing more shows. There are places that are reaching out to them, so that's good, because I mean, when you think about it, they had 8 or 9 boxing matches. And I can name 8 or 9 boxers that are local that didn't fight on this card that could fight a month or 2 later and give these guys a break. So there is definitely the possibility to have more boxing around here. But to answer your question, a well-rounded fighter for MMA is very good, because if you're in an MMA fight, you don't know if you're facing a grappler and you're more of a striker, you want to have some grappling. If you're more of a grappler, you want to learn how to strike, because there's multiple disciplines involved in MMA. You want to learn that. If you're a boxer, you don't want to mess with MMA. You don't want to mess with grappling or kickboxing or anything, because that confuses you what you want to do. I have a friend who is a good boxer. He's a better actor. His name's Derek Hinkey. And his second to last boxing match, he knocked the guy out, but the guy came in and he clinched him. And afterwards he said it was just so hard not to knee him in the face. So, you want in
Yeah, I
boxing,
mean-
you want to stick to boxing.
Yeah, that could end pretty poorly.
Right. And the way martial arts is you're kind of more squared up in a lot of martial arts stances. You're not doing as much head movement. It's just a different art.
Yeah.
So if you're a boxer, you want to work on different boxing styles and how to interact with them. It's kind of like Sammy fighting Marin. The thing about Marin is that he has a very pro kind of a Mexican style that comes in with a lot of hooks, a lot of overhand rights, kind of parries, holds, elbows, things like that you don't necessarily see in the amateur. So that was a good experience for Sammy. But yeah, anyways, probably gave you a long
No. That's
explanation
a
on that.
fantastic answer. You gave me some bullet points coming out of that. You mentioned Jason and Monica. They're growing, and it's fantastic. And then you said that there's 7 or 8 fighters here in Utah that could give these other fighters a break. And so I'm curious. I want to pick your brain. Who are these 8 or 7, 8 other, however many fighters you can think of that you would like to see in maybe some of these shows?
Okay, so I'd like to see the Mamone brothers back. I mean, they
They were the
did
ones from
really
Hawaii.
well. They were the Hawaiians.
From Rival Series 4.
Ricky and Kamula, yeah.
Okay.
Then you've got both of the Castros. Neither of them fought on the last card. You've got Isaiah Rodriguez. You've got Demetrius Alexander. We all want to see Garcia come here and fight. So
Tanner? Was that the wrong? I'm telling you, was that the wrong name?
From Fulmers?
From Fulmers.
Yeah.
I'd love to see Tanner fight.
yeah, Tanner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's some good lineup right there.
Yeah.
I mean, so now let's go into like we talked about what makes a really good fighter. Let's talk about what makes a really good show now. So we have a good amount of fighters that were 16 that we just listed off right there from Rival Series 5 and these other ones.
Yeah.
In your opinion, like, is there maybe a show that you can make that would just be over the top with those fighters, with those select? Does that make any sense? I mean, like, is there like a star-studded show in your opinion when you think about these fighters?
I mean, they all can make a star-studded show. You want to have a good diversity of it, right? This past card was a good mix of everything. You had Dillan, who was showy. This might be a hot take or whatnot, but I thought he was the performance of the night because he fought a high-level boxer, looked really good, won by shutout. I had no doubt that was a shutout. So you had a high-level boxer, 2 high-level boxers, good boxing match. Local guy won. He had fun. He was, giving a little bit of the flair. You had Darian Orvin versus Will Worthland, just 2 guys that decided to go out there and just bang it out. So you had that. You had Jose Mata, who came out and did the first round knockout, which everybody loves a first round knockout like that because everybody,
It's interesting you're saying it's a knockout. I mean, if we're going to say, because, I mean, if we look, do you follow the fighters on Instagram?
Some of them, yeah.
Well, he believed that he wasn't fully knocked out. Jose's opponent, he did.
Jeremiah, yeah, but Jeremiah was complaining a whole lot. See,
Right.
the
There we
thing
go.
is,
There we go.
All right.
Jose, let me also say,
Okay.
Jose did a fantastic job. He really
did.
He had the crowd. The crowd was there. They were chanting his name. Him, Bobby, and Sammy. They really had the crowd there. He showed up. He fought well. Incredible knockout. I'm sorry. Take it from.
Oh, no worries. No, I agree. He did everything right. No disrespect to Jeremiah, but he was knocked out. He wasn't getting up. That's why the referee stopped it. Knockout is when they count to 10. You don't have to be knocked out cold. You could just be knocked down and the referee counts to 10. The referee stopped counting because he wasn't going to get up, and he didn't.
Right.
He got up and
Right.
he was complaining, and totally understand it. When I made my pro debut, the guy hit me behind the head. It was a foul. I got knocked down. I got back up, and I was trying to tell the referee that he fouled me, but he had already stopped it. And so I cussed out the referee, and Yeah. Anyways, that's a story that's in my reels. You can go find that.
Okay.
Anyway, so I understand the frustration of losing your
Right.
pro debut, especially by first round knockout.
Right.
But he was stopped. He was knocked out.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I was talking about when he made a deal during the weigh-in to make sure that we all knew that he worked out at Wild Card, and that's really good. But there's a lot of fighters that go work in these bigger gyms, and they're sparring partners, and it's good. You get work against good fighters, and that's what I thought he looked like when I watched him. Is he moved around pretty well, wasn't throwing a lot of punches, and he got caught.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I completely agree with you. It was an interesting one. When you're commentating, is there a certain amount of fights that you think is the perfect number?
it depends on how many rounds. Obviously, if you have 3 12-round fights because you're doing 3 world title fights, which are 12-round fights, you're going to have 36 rounds, and that's going to take a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're still going to pack on like 5 or 6. I mean, this is what the big cards do. They'll do like 5 or 6 that are like 6-round fights, 8-round fights.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and some of those cards will start at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And when some of these fighters hit the ring, there's nobody in the arena, except for somebody like myself.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Was it Tyson Fury who had his fight on Netflix?
Mm-hmm.
And that thing started at like noon or something crazy.
Right.
And I remember turning it on and there was like no one in the giant arena. And I was like, oh, I'll come back in a couple hours when the fight's actually starting.
Right.
So that makes total sense. And that must be kind of hard, I would think, as a commentator, if there's like no one really there. And like you're in the arena, I guess, and it's just kind of more long drawn out. Or would you prefer that? I don't know.
I would, if I got a chance to do commentary for a big card like that, I would love it. But
Okay.
These small cards, 8 or 9 fights are good.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if you get too many fights, it starts taking a long time, especially if there's no knockouts. There's not, they're all going the distance. The crowd gets bored.
Right.
And if you are doing a fight card where you have some of these MMA fighters on it, and so the MMA crowd comes on, they're not as interested in the art of boxing, I guess. They want to see knockouts, submissions, and whatnot. They're kind of a more bloodthirsty crowd. So, and don't get me wrong, boxing fans are too, but
Right.
there are some boxing fans, they know the sport they're going to watch, and they know that it's just going to go the way it does.
Right.
Whereas when you're watching a MMA fight, you want to see a submission, you want to see a highlight reel knockout, you want to see Ammon Garcia, who's from Layton, Utah, and he fought in Fierce's main event. He's got 4 straight first-round knockouts, so he hits the cage, and you want to see that knockout.
Right.
So.
I completely agree with you. Well, I mean, when we saw Rival Series 4, Dillan, I mean, the second he started bleeding from his head, the crowd just went barbaric. I mean, the crowd completely changed. So they love blood just as much. It is interesting that you pointed out how in MMA, when we were at the same, I believe so, the Fierce Fighting Championship fight at the Maverick Center maybe about a month ago.
Yeah.
I think we're at the same one. There seemed like there was so was Bryson. So I totally didn't mean to like exclude.
No, you're fine.
They were so many knockouts like within the first round, like you're saying. Like the shows, there were so many fights, but it felt like the show was shorter because, I mean, you were sitting for maybe like 90 seconds full time of them actually like fighting. It seemed like it just was rolling so fast compared to like the boxing. But if you're in the commentator's position like you are, would you prefer to have, because now this is a question because when we talked to Jason and Zack, they said the exact same answer, that when they're building a card, a good fight to them is when it goes back and forth, right? And it's a nail biter, it's a barn burner, who's going to win? This could be any man's game. Do you prefer that as the commentator as well, to have that back and forth, or do you want that Joe Rogan screaming, knockout? How do you lean?
So I like to educate about combat sports. That's my thing. One of the things that I love is there are people that I've sat next to that aren't big fans. necessarily know what they're watching. And I could sit next to him and I explain to him what's going on. And after the show, they have a new appreciation for whatever we were watching. Mm-hmm. So as a commentator, I like the give and take fights. Mm-hmm. One, if they're really competitive, and like Dillan versus Ricky Mamone. Dillan Nguyen versus Ricky Mamone, where they had the cut, right?
Right. Yep.
The first round was could have gone either way because Ricky landed some good punches at the beginning of the round. Dillan got into his groove and was boxing at the end of the round. Dillan was boxing really well the second and third round. The fourth round was the headbutt where he was cut, and Dillan started standing toe-to-toe with Ricky, which gave Ricky a little bit more of an advantage. That was a fun fight to call because it had a little bit of everything, and the cool thing was they took an intermission after that fight, and I walked to the restroom, and everybody was talking about it. There were some people, oh, Dillan clearly won that. Some people, Ricky clearly won that. What are you talking about? I got into a little bit of an argument with some of
in the bathroom.
Some of the people that I know outside of the bathroom, Eddie Cordova, and who's a former fighter. We get into a debate on the fight because I thought Dillan clearly won. He thought Ricky clearly won. They're my check mark people, so I mean, I had no skin in the game on it. So.
I mean, that's interesting. I think I would like to see the back and forth as mine. I think that's just kind of, it's a different audience. Like you said, I mean, different people are there. If you have the MMA fans, they want to see something different, but personal opinion, I think that's where I'm at. Let's go into like combat sports in Utah.
Okay.
I mean, you cover a lot. You've seen a lot here. Are you thinking, I guess let's do the next 5-year predictions. Let's stick with that timeline.
Okay.
Where do you think you could see boxing and MMA in 5 years here in Utah?
5 years, I'm hoping that boxing is turned into every other month, if not every month, a card. So much goes into a card, especially when you look at the amount of resources that have to go into actually promoting a card. You guys have seen that now, being on the production end of it. And just going in there and seeing the setup and everything.
Right.
But you also got to remember, with the boxing card, you can't do a pro-am like you can with MMA. So if you figure 8 or 9 fights, if one side's making $800 to $1,000, the A side is making $800 to $1,000. That's not including their ticket sales. And the B side is making $1,500 to $2,500, you're looking at about $20,000 of purse liabilities. Whereas with an MMA card, you're looking at 1 or 2 pro fights. You have a purse liability of maybe $5,000 to $6,000, and then a whole bunch of amateur MMA fights because amateur MMA is sanctioned by the same commission, and there's not a lot of difference between an amateur MMA fight and a pro MMA fight. I'm sure my MMA buddies will, try to tell me, but aesthetically,
right,
they're very similar. So I know it's like no strikes to the head, 3-minute rounds, and a couple other subtle differences. But aesthetically, anyways, to answer your question, MMA's got, Fierce does about 12 to 13 cards a year. Still Fist does 10 to 12 cards per year. I'm hoping that All Heart can do, 6 to 8 cards per year in 5 years from now. And if it's not just All Heart, if it's Kuka Boxing or just another one that pops up, because now that people see that Jason's being successful, there's bound to be an emulator out there that wants to come in and do something.
Yes, I'm completely with you. To be able to do the boxing fights, this is kind of like another two-parter for you. So,
okay.
To do the boxing fights every month, I feel like one of the problems that we hear over and over and over is that other states don't really respect Utah yet, Utah fighters. They used to say, like, Utah fighters, they're the easy ones. They're like the bottom of the food chain, right? And so they'd come in here to get their fight. There's not a lot of respect on Utah. Do you think that's going to change or has changed?
I think it will. The thing is that, okay, so the main promoter in Utah for the longest time was a guy named Flash Newman. I know Flash. I've done some work with him. I did some matchmaking with him. He didn't want to pay fighters a whole lot of money, so it was hard to get good opposition. So when you can't get good opposition, all these prospects here have no one to really fight. So I remember one of Gary Gomez's nephews, can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, he was fighting, and I was asked to find him an opponent. I found him an MMA guy out of Carson City who came and took the fight, thought it was an MMA fight, and got knocked out in 15 seconds, right? For $750, by the way, to be the B-side. Anyways, that's changing. You got somebody like Jason who knows how to matchmake.
Right.
You know, he stepped Sammy up the right way, and he's going to step Sammy up again to fight somebody that's going to help him down the road in his career. Isaiah Rodriguez, he's doing similar steps up there. I think they kind of know where Isaiah's going to go, and like Isaiah could build up a record and then go out and fight on the road and be competitive and make some good money and possibly go buy a house or something like that. So there's a perception. There definitely is. I've been messaged and called several times over the last few months. Hey, can you get me in contact with this guy or with this fighter, that fighter? You interviewed him. You should. So I've just been deferring everybody to Jason. Here, talk to Jason.
Yeah. Dude, that's hilarious.
So
there you go. Just call this guy.
I used to be on the business part of it, right? I worked with CCC Promotions. We promoted 3 cards together. I worked with Flash Newman. I matchmade. I've done a little bit of everything. So that's why some people, they see me out there talking to these fighters and everything. They think that I might have some sort of connection where I could help them get this guy. But sometimes it's just like, I'll tell them they're not going to take that fight. Right. You're calling me, you're calling me for a 4-time national champion. Our guy is a national champion as well, but they're building him just like you're building your guy. Right. Why cannibalize him right now? Right. Why have him fight right now where they could fight 2 or 3 years from now? They both could be like 12-0 or something like that, and they could each make 6 figures. Right. Rather than coming out here and fighting for a couple grand, or they go out that, somebody goes out there and fights for a couple grand. Now, the nice thing about Jason, and I don't know if he'd like me to share this or not, but he gives a very generous percentage of the ticket sales to the fighters. So someone like a Sammy Flores could go out there and he sells like $20,000 to $25,000 in tickets. So his ticket split with Jason, he's getting paid like some of these guys that, well, a low level UFC fighter, let's just put it that way. And so why would he go and take $2,500 to fight in somebody's backyard at this point in his career when he could fight here? You got to come fight him in his hometown. Right. And
he's the main star.
Yeah.
So he's the title fight. So like, why would he go somewhere else for that?
Same with Bobby. Bobby, I'm sure that Armando Reyes has gotten calls about Bobby. He's 5-0. He's a middleweight. I'm sure he's gotten calls, probably decent calls, maybe like $5,000 or $6,000. But why would he go take $5,000 or $6,000 when he gets his ticket split? So he's making pretty decent money to build his record. Right. And Jason's not having these guys fight easy fights either. The records might look like they're easy, but that's the thing, is if you're building them up right, they're going to be challenged every time they step into the ring. But it's the right kind of challenge where they're going to win. They're going to get their win, or they might get their loss, but they're going to learn. I mean, John Castro was supposed to beat Camilo Mamon, and he ended up losing that fight, and he learned something there. And so he's going to come back stronger. one of my friends, Nonito Donaire, he's a Hall of Famer. He lost his second fight. So I messaged John like a couple days after his fight. You know what? Nonito Donaire told me that losing that fight was the best thing for him because it made him work that much harder. So keep that in mind.
You have an amazing business mindset to this. I have to respect it, and I got to pick it a little bit more. To have, and we talked to Zack about this a little bit with Fierce Fighting Championship is, and I would love to get your opinion on boxing, about having a fight every month or every other month. From a business standpoint, do you think it would be wise to do that, or should you have it, kind of in its rare form for exclusivity, for, I don't know what's the proper word for it, but just like, oh, this is a once in a blue moon thing. We got to get our tickets. We got to be there.
To build the hype up.
To build the hype up. Thank you. Instead of just being like, oh, we'll just catch them next month. We're busy. We'll be cool. Instead of a thing of like, oh, I have to be there.
If you have a lot of fighters, fighters are the ones that sell the tickets on these levels. So Fierce, if you go to their cards, I mean, it didn't look like there was as many. You said you went to the Maverick Center one. It didn't look like there was as many people in the Maverick Center as usual. But if you go to, there still was a pretty decent number of people. Right. If you go to their cards at the Masonic Temple, they're almost always sold out. Right. And they do a huge amount of shows. Right. A lot of their shows are sold out. So if you have fighters, fighters that will go out there and sell, you could have a card every month. And somebody might be like, well, yeah, I'll just catch it next month, which sometimes even I do. I'll just be like, you know what, I'll watch the stream 2 days from now, write up a report or something. 2 days after, I'm not going to go to this one. That's perfectly fine. But there's plenty of people that, hey, you know what, this is my guy. I'm not going to I might not go to any other card except for if Sammy's fighting and unless Bobby's fighting, the Mamones or whatever. That's
a really good point. I will say about the Maverick Center, it was just so much bigger that I'm curious on like what the actual audience difference was in the amount of like tickets sold compared. I've never been to the Masonic Temple one, but that compared to the Maverick Center was just so much bigger. You had so many. It felt like. You know, does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
It just was like, I bet they were pretty similar in tickets sold, but just the arena feel of it did make it feel not as like exclusive or like, oh, I'm in something that's popping right now, man. I can miss this one, right? Because it didn't feel packed out to me.
To be fair, the Maverick Center card that Fierce normally does is a big one. They'll bring out their big guns. Like when they had Mike Jones versus Jerome Hatch, that was at the Maverick Center. Last year, Darian Orvin versus Ammon Garcia was at the Maverick Center. Hava Owens fought at the Maverick Center last year. They bring out all of their big guns for the Maverick Center card. This past Maverick Center card kind of fell in their lap because it was the same night BKFC was supposed to take place. Supposed to have their card, and they were having a card in Farmington like 2 weeks after. Well, because BKFC backed out, I don't know what kind of deal they had, if they got a discount on the arena because it was earmarked or whatever.
Yeah.
And part of it was, and I text messaged Zack, I said, that's actually really smart because people were already going to go to the Maverick Center to watch fights. So
you make a great point. That's a great point.
But because fell in their lap like a month before, it ended up being like one of their monthly shows rather than their big one.
Right.
And that's one of the things that the DeCarlos could do is they could have their, like, if it got big enough where they're doing monthly shows, they could have their monthly shows, and then they could have one big card or two big cards a year over at a place like the Maverick Center, sell more tickets, get a higher level of fighter to fight, fighting Sammy, a title fight or something to make it to draw more people in.
That's a really good point. I think that would make a lot of business sense to do like a two really big shows and then kind of just fill in the gaps.
Right.
And if you could find a way to like streamline it so your margins weren't so tight and you're like, all the stuff that goes into it, that seems like a really smart business play. Are you? We can totally clip this if you're not, because I'm really not. I'm asking you in hopes for some education here. But
Okay.
have you heard of the Muhammad? Is it the Muhammad Ali bill?
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Because it was really interesting to me.
Okay, so this is the Muhammad Ali revival bill. So it's not the Muhammad Ali bill. The Muhammad Ali bill originally was in the 90s, and it cleaned up a lot of what was bad about boxing. So previously, you could Don King
Right.
would have his son Carl King be the manager of the fighter. Don King was the promoter, and they would end up taking like half of the fighter's purse. They would also
half of the fighter's purse.
yeah, because he would take his promotional fee, and then Carl King would take 33%, 33 and a third percent of the fighter's purse for for his manager fee. So the other part of it is, if you wanted to fight for the heavyweight championship of the world, which was held by, for the longest time, a Don King fighter. Larry Holmes was a Don King fighter at the time, Mike Tyson, and for a long time, Don King held all of the in-between champions between Holmes and Tyson. Yeah. So if you wanted to fight one of them for the title, you'd have to sign with Don King. He would force you to sign away the rights for your next 3 to 5 fights.
Wow.
So the original Muhammad Ali Act did away with all that stuff. You could fight for the world title, not have to sign a promotional agreement with the promoter that had the championship. It created passbooks, like a federal ID, that you have to present when you go to fight. That way they knew who was fighting. Before, I could go and be, one weekend I could be, I'm Charles Presnell. The next weekend I could say I'm Charles Jung, which I am. Then the next weekend I could say I'm Charles Crocius, which was my mother's middle name, and I could fight every weekend. There was no database that stored the fighters. Some of the matchmakers would, like, if I wanted to say, okay, Jake, I'm just going to throw you in here with Sammy because we can't find somebody who fights with Sammy. I'm going to say your record's 5-3, and you're just going to go in there, right? They used to be able to get away with that. Whereas
it's a dirty game.
Yeah.
That's murky. Okay, I'm sorry.
Whereas the Ali Act in 2000 it started in the 90s, and then in 2000 did away with all that stuff. That's why, like, BJ Penn broke away from UFC and didn't make any money, because everything was, when you buy UFC, you're not just buying a fighter, you're buying the promotion, right?
Right.
But Floyd Mayweather broke away from Top Rank. People in boxing don't buy the promotion, they buy the fighter. Right. So Floyd Mayweather made $300-400 million in his career. He's broke now, but
oh no, is he really? I didn't know that.
Well, I mean, if you follow the news reports, he's in a lot of trouble right now.
Oh no! Oh, why? I'm totally breaking off the Muhammad Ali thing for a second. Why gambling, houses, cars, private jets.
That's part of it. He got involved with the wrong people that took advantage of him, and he made some bad investments. Where he's getting in trouble now is he wrote a check for a $200,000 watch that was bad, and the jeweler's been trying to work with him over the last year, and he hasn't returned the watch, hasn't made the check good. So they took that down and turned it into the DA, the police report, and he's looking at some time. It's like 4 years because of the value.
Golly, man, just the smallest thing, and the reputation's shot now. That sucks, man. Yeah.
To go back to the Muhammad Ali thing. Yeah, so the new one has things that are going to hurt boxing as far as the medical requirements.
Where is this new one at in the process?
It's in the Senate.
It's in the Senate currently.
They had some people testify. One of them was Muhammad Ali's son or grandson, and he even said, if you guys are going to pass this, don't put my grandfather's name on it, because this would have been against anything that he would have wanted. Oscar De La Hoya testified to this in the Senate as well. I'm back and forth on it. The things that I don't like about it are the drug testing and the medicals. One, I think the state should be able to decide which medicals you need. Things like MRIs, MRAs, and whatnot, they're expensive. So a small promoter like Jason would hurt him really bad.
Yeah.
Especially when, I mean, you walk around, you see most fighters walk around and they're perfectly fine afterwards, even if they get knocked out. Right. If I believe in if you get knocked out or knocked out cold, then you might need to go get an MRI, MRA. Right. The doctor's going to tell you that anyway. So the medical things, the drug testing is a little bit out there too. They want to try to make fighters do like Olympic-style drug testing, which costs around $10,000, between $10,000 to $100,000 to do. So that's going to be another thing that kills these small promoters. So I don't like those two provisions of it because, I mean, for baseball, I like going to watch the Ogden Raptors. The Ogden Raptors are not going to be drug tested like MLB players are. So
that's a really good point, Charles. That's a great point, man.
Some of these fighters, myself included, are on the Pioneer League level. They're never going to be on the level of, Sammy is more like going to go up to AAA and then the majors, right? Eventually he's going to be subject to all of that.
Right.
Whereas somebody like a Darren Orvin might never be subject to that.
Right.
So,
right.
So why make the promoter pay for all of that?
Well, it definitely seems like they're trying to push the smaller promoters out. So
they are.
It doesn't seem logical. Like, you're naming these things off, and if we're talking about how we want to have more boxing in the state of Utah, you want to have one every month and one every other month, and you could put on these bigger shows. Well, it sounds like we're not going to be able to do the one every month, every other month, because the promoter now can't afford it. Like we were just talking about, finding the margins, being able to streamline. Now you have these giant costs. So it doesn't seem logical in that way if you wanted to grow the sport. So it sounds like it's, I don't know, I'm totally projecting here, I could be making this up, but it sounds like it's being lobbied by people who have the money to do that, to cut off the smaller promoters in some way, because it doesn't make sense if you want to grow the sport to now put on $10,000, $20,000, whatever it is, extra charges to these smaller promoters.
Right. It's a favor to Dana White. I'm gonna keep it real. It's a favor to Dana White.
Right.
They want to build their Zuffa boxing brand. Dana White never wanted into boxing because he couldn't own it like he owns UFC. When you watch professional wrestling, it's WWE. There's always been some other other brand like an AEW, right? You watch MMA, you have UFC, and then you have your LFAs and whatnot, right? That are good, but they're not as good. So the idea is, if you cut off all of these smaller promoters, you end up being able to sign all these guys like Sammy and whatnot, make them fight for whatever you want to pay them. Eventually you'll build up, but from what I've heard, none of those fighters that are signing with Zuffa are getting the type of money that they're not getting Mayweather money, they're not getting Terrence Crawford money, they're not getting Manny Pacquiao type money. If you look at UFC, some of the highest payouts are like $5 to $10 million for like Brock Lesnar and Conor McGregor. You compare that to, a boxing world champion, they might be getting, between $5 to $10 million for a fight as well, but they're nowhere as far as big of a name as like a Brock Lesnar or Conor McGregor.
Right. Man, that seems really interesting to me, because it just sucks to see that could actually be a possibility. Do you think it could actually get passed? I mean, enough money, if enough money's thrown at him, I guess it could be passed, huh?
I think it's going to depend on the midterms.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of been tabled a little bit. So we'll see what happens with it. I'd like to see a modified version of it. I don't mind Dana White getting a chance to try to do what he wants to do. I just say, let's leave the local commissions and let's leave the small promoters alone, because you get rid of small promoters like All Heart or Let's Get It On in Nevada or Uppercut Boxing in Sacramento or, any smaller promoter like that. You get rid of these small places where these fighters could go and get experience. What do the fighters have to do? Fighters have to go to Mexico. They have to go to Brazil. They have to go to just all over the place outside of the United States jurisdiction where they could build their record. I mean, there's a lot of people who go to like Tijuana. Aaron Garcia does that to build their records. And if you have the money, that's fine. But you shouldn't have to do that to get your shot. You should be able to do it in your own backyard, actually make money rather than spend money.
I'm totally with you. I'm going to ask this last question, then I want to kind of pivot to you a little bit more personal.
Okay.
I want to see you just named a couple promotions. You've seen a lot of fights and a lot of fighters. Could you give me your top 3 fighters right now that you're looking at that you're thinking, oh, these are the big times. This is the star. Certain names come to your mind?
Okay, so as far as at the beginner, keep an eye on them. Where they end up 5 years from now. One is Sammy Flores, obviously. I would mention him because he's our star here. But not only that, I mean, he's got the right mindset. I mean, I don't know if you guys were doing the video or if that was somebody with All Heart where they're interviewing everybody, all the fighters. Where are you going after the weigh-in? And he just says, I'm going to have a banana and a Gatorade. And then they asked him on fight night, what are you going to do after the fights? He's like, I'm going to be in the gym on Monday morning. Yeah. That is Mayweather type. Mayweather would get done fighting and the next morning he would be out there running, preparing for the next one. So Sammy, definitely. There's a fighter out of Carson City, Nevada. His name is Miguel Tito Elizondo, and he's a 4-time national champion. He's being brought up by Let's Get It On, and he's also a member goes down and trains with Canelo Alvarez's crew. His cousin, Christian Avalos, fought on Rival Series 3, and he beat Dillan Cervantes. His uncles all were excellent amateur and pro fighters, so he's definitely got the pedigree. So I keep an eye on him. I think he's going to be. And then, I don't know, it's hard. That's really hard. That's okay. If you want to talk about locally, I think Dillan Nguyen has a lot of potential. He's a former national champion as well. He's got the amateur credentials. If he stays busy, I think he could do really well.
Man, something that's interesting is I don't know the second fighter, Tito. I haven't met him. I don't know who that is personally, but I will say we've worked with Sammy and Dillan, and not only are they great fighters, but they have the presence, man. They're willing to talk to the camera. They know how to talk to the camera. They know how to talk to an audience. It seems like they get the business side of it, right? They understand that they got to sell themselves, which is an interesting point.
Can I tell you a quick story about Sammy? Yeah. So after Sammy's pro debut, I go in to get my hair cut, and my barber's cutting my hair, and he said, you know what? That kid that you interviewed, that Sammy Flores, he said, I actually met him 2 months before his pro debut. And he's like, Sandra and I were just walking around looking at all of the Christmas lights, and he came up asking if I would buy some Rice Krispie treats. And I talked to him for about 10 minutes, and he said he told me where he's been, where he wants to go, and he spoke with so much passion. He said, I'm going to follow that kid. I'm glad you got to interview him because I got to see him. It's like he's starting it, and I'm excited to watch that journey. That's the power Sammy has, is he's out there. I mean, he's a kid that I've seen on social media, people commenting that he's just walking around Walmart parking lots selling Rice Krispie treats to pay to go to the Nationals. There's all these fighters their trainers are putting out things on social media. Hey, we're trying to get money to go to the nationals. He's out there selling Rice Krispie treats or whatever, telling people his dream, and that's how he's funding it.
Mm-hmm. Man, we know about the Rice Krispies, man. I have to give it to him. I mean, that's someone who wants to be there, right?
Absolutely.
I think he told me, I could be misquoting, so Sammy, I apologize if I am, but I think he told me that his coach told him it's a part of your daily routine. You have to go introduce yourself to like 10 people or something like that. Yeah. I'm like, you never hear that rule. You never hear the coach telling him like, go and learn how to sell yourself. Like go do these things. And I mean, that's just fantastic.
Jason's been around all over the place. I was talking to Jason at the weigh-in, Jason Tafoya, and he told me, he said, I tell all of my fighters that want to go pro, if you can't sell out your hometown, don't even bother.
Bro, you remember that? What did Zack say on the podcast we did with him? It was like, if you don't have 25 friends or family that want to come see you fight, then most likely I don't want to see you.
Yeah.
Or something like that. It's like, I mean,
it's like at that point, like, who are you getting?
Yeah, bro. You don't move the needle. So
because if you're a pro, you know, and I listened to the one with Jason and Monica, and Jason hits nail on the head. I've got to sell 70 tickets to pay for your fight. I heard Zack on Dre Rocca's podcast, and he says, you know, some of these fighters, they want to come out here and try to dictate terms. And I tell him at some point, I tell him, why would I put you on a card?
Right. Because
I could put on two amateur fights, and it's not going to cost me anything.
Yeah, man. Oh, I mean, it's an interesting part of this sport that, I mean, fighters and everybody just has to learn that at the end of the day, it is a business.
Yeah.
You know? It's just an underlying thing. I want to transition a little bit into your family before we end here.
Okay.
Your son takes the photos, Tommy.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
You have a blog, correct me if I'm wrong here, on Substack.
Correct.
And I have to commend your son. Those are some amazing photos. He really does have a talent for it. That is fantastic. Someone we're all three behind cameras all the time. He's got a great eye. He does fantastic. I've seen, even when I was trying to take photos, sometimes it gets dark in there, so you're trying to bump up all your settings and stuff like that. And he has a crisp, clean photo, great action shot. I mean, he really is fantastic at it. So have you just been kind of like, I mean, at what age were you showing him fights and stuff? Was he at Rival Series 4? Did he see all the blood and the knockouts? How are you handling that?
He's been to Rival Series since the second one. So Rival Series 2 was the first one he went to. I've taken him to some fierce fights before then, because there wasn't a lot of boxing going on. So we went to a few fierce fights before then. But and then I went to Rival Series 1 with Doug Gibson, and he found out and he got mad. It's like, why didn't you take me? So then the next time I messaged Jason, I was like, hey, I'll pay for a ticket for Tommy. And he's like, oh, just bring him.
Yeah.
And then I just thought, you know what? I like going out and getting all these interviews, doing all this stuff. I'll buy Tommy a camera and see what he could do. I'm like, I'm sure he can get like 2 or 3 good shots. He goes out there and he does really well. And they're getting better. Like the last from Rival Series 5, they were the best pictures. And I just touched them up with ChatGPT. I didn't really have to do a lot of editing.
Yeah.
Some of them I haven't done any editing at all. And you know, I look at them, I'm like, I could probably need to be touched up a little. But sometimes I'm just like, forget it. I'm going to put it up there because I've spent so much time doing this.
Are you just trying to keep it in the family? Does he have like a real knack for it? He really likes this kind of thing? Or are you just...
So Tommy's been doing Tang Soo Do for the last 3 years. He wants to do MMA. And
how do you feel about that as a dad?
I told him, if you want to do MMA, learning kickboxing is not an option. It's mandatory. If you want to do MMA, you have to learn how to grapple. You have to learn jiu-jitsu. You have to learn boxing. So if you want to do it, it's a
lot of monthly subscriptions. It's a lot of monthly payments, gym payments right there, man. That's a lot.
I don't know if you boys have any kids. You guys are all young. So,
no.
they're expensive. I mean,
Yeah.
dance, baseball,
So good, man.
Tang Soo Do, everything,
that's-
everything.
So that was kind of my point, is like someone who clearly has like a love for the combat sports scene is, as a dad, you just kind of expose it to them and see if they bite to it, or do you kind of throw them in there and like, it's mandatory, need to know how to protect yourself type thing, or how does that play?
With my daughters, my oldest kid, she does Tang Soo Do. She's the highest rank out of all of them. Mm-hmm. And she didn't want to do it at first, and Tommy was doing it. And I told her, you're either doing this or I'm taking you down to Foley's and you're going to learn jiu-jitsu, because there are going to be some guys, there are people out here that could possibly hurt you, and you need to know how to defend yourself. And so she agreed to do it. Then my youngest daughter she's the one who is a little bit more aggressive than everyone else. So my wife kept on, "Do you sure you want to teach her how to punch with accuracy?"
Wow, that's fantastic.
So,
all right, so you got like a whole thing going here, man. You got the family; they're all getting into it. It's fantastic. I'm gonna end on my last question here, and this is let's ask it. So why should people listen to an old Asian who talks into a MacBook? Will be my last question. And that's what he wanted me to say. I'm not deliberately calling saying those things. Why?
That's a great question. Well, I started boxing when I was 13. It was just a buddy of mine watching Rocky III one summer afternoon, and then he says, I got the gear out in the garage. You want to go and do it? And I knocked him down 5 times. So it's like, I could do this. So I've done the amateurs. I did smokers, and the smokers are really interesting. People think, oh, is that like pickup boxing? Sometimes it is, but most of the time it was going to a gym or something that had fights that weren't sanctioned. Some of them were 3 1-minute rounds. Some of them were 5 2-minute rounds. Anyway, so I did a whole bunch of smokers. I did probably over 200 of those. I did 5 pro fights. I did one really primitive MMA fight back before.
Primitive is a great word.
I say primitive because it was pre-Dana White. This was in 99 or 2000? So it was pre-Dana White. And this guy just charged, and I hit him with the jab right, put him in the worst guillotine in the world, and got him to tap. And so, basically, I've lived the life not just as a fighter, but I also worked for 2 promoters, 1 Lionheart Boxing, 2 CCC promotions. I've probably match made over 200 fights in my lifetime. I've cornered fighters. I took a break when my kids were really little and fell away. So some of the younger people, and I say younger because when I look at the dates, the birth dates on the commission sheet for some of these cards, it's like, I could easily be some of these guys' dad, and it wouldn't even be weird. I mean, I started my family at a later age, so that's why I have younger kids. But it's like, Sammy, you could do the math on this. If I got a girl pregnant at 25, they would be Sammy's age. When I was 25, they'd be Sammy's age now. So
you got some years on them. Yeah,
so that's why some of these younger kids probably don't remember, because like I said, my last fight was in 2013. So, yeah.
Well, man, you're very knowledgeable, and you have a great recall. You really, you do have an amazing memory, and it's been a fantastic conversation talking with you. Where can people find it's Substack, correct? That's the blog?
Right.
Okay. How can they find that? How can they find your podcast and everything you do?
It's fightchatter.substack.com. My podcast is on YouTube. Just look up Fight Chatter. And then you could follow me. I do a lot of reels and things like that. Sweet Chuck P. P is in Presnell on Instagram.
Yeah. Charles, it's been fantastic. Thank you for taking time to be here.
Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. All right.
All right.
Check out the next one.
Check out the next one, guys.
Thanks.